All right, welcome to Goon Squad's Decentralized News, where we cover this week's biggest stories affecting the crypto economy. I am your host, Piter, joined as always by Aussie. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. How are you doing, my friend?
Hanging right in there. I've got major distractions in the background. There's no school today. Say a little prayer and let's go. We're going to discuss headlines, especially the tornado cash ruling, and a lot of bullish momentum in the crypto adoption, kind of crypto game theory space. We're going to briefly touch on the macro updates, and we're going to do an altcoin speed run through news of the week, kind of some rumblings with XRP and AI agents I've seen a lot of, and then also news to look out for in the week to come. All right, so state of the market. Bitcoin dominance is falling, went from 57 to 61%.
Reverse 61 to 57.
Thank you. Yes. MicroStrategies still buying Bitcoin. There was a little bit of FUD. This is just quick things that are happening right now in the market. The U.S. transferred, there was a report from, I think, Altcoin Daily. U.S. transferred 20,000 Bitcoins to Coinbase. There's always speculation that is an intent to sell. And then there was a post this morning. I saw Coinbase and Apple Pay have collaborated, so you can convert fiat into a lot easier through Apple Pay, just a tap for 60 million U.S. users. So pretty big news as far as headlines. What's on Twitter this morning? You want to get into our first story here with Tornado Cash? That's probably the biggest story I thought of the week.
Yeah, this is definitely a big story for this week just because it had a pretty major impact on being able to dev in the space. And
big
so I think this ruling is pretty major for that in terms of protecting
devs. For devs, you think of people, think adoption and people wanting to get in the space and to develop in this space. So big news, yeah.
Yeah. And so in this case, the court has overturned U.S. sanctions against Tornado Cash. So this was like something that had happened under the previous administration. It had happened just about a year ago almost. And in this case, Tornado Cash is being found as not being liable for what North Korean hackers use of the platform is the short form of it. Originally, the dev had been arrested and charged for participating in terrorist and money laundering activities. If you don't know what it is, it's a set of smart contracts that essentially act as a mixer. So it allows you to have privacy on chain, so you can send money from one wallet to another without anyone being able to see which wallet sent to which wallet. So this was an immutable smart contract, and the ruling hinged on the question on whether can computer code that cannot be modified or controlled be considered property. And essentially the court said no, because the owner had deployed the code and could not modify the code himself. He did not control the code because Tornado Cash is run by a DAO and operated by a DAO. It was
properly, in this particular case, it was decentralized enough.
Yeah, it was properly decentralized. The answer is no. I think this is pretty major, so that if you choose to deploy things on chain, that you then either renounce ownership or ownership is passed towards a properly decentralized organization, then I think it does provide devs with incentives to go towards decentralization because it protects them, but it also allows for that development to occur on chain that maybe people didn't feel as comfortable with doing before.
No, I think that's a really important point you make. It's just, it encourages even further decentralization from developers. So it encourages developers to enter the space and encourages them to work on more decentralized protocols. Another interesting part about this is it did mention about future laws. So it says, this is a quote, perhaps Congress will update laws enacted during the Carter administration, because that's what was apparently applied in this case, to target modern technologies like crypto mixing services. So until then, we hold that Tornado Cash's immutable smart contract cannot be blocked under current law. So it definitely makes you think, oh, so what is the current regulatory environment? And it's been so much more positive. So they have to navigate this issue of privacy preserving technology, which Tornado Cash is. It preserves your privacy, but it can be used for legitimate and illegitimate purposes. So legitimate being, I want to donate to someone anonymously. Illegitimate is I'm a hacker, scammer, or money launderer. So how do we navigate this? And it's just a lot more favorable for privacy advocates going into the potentially regulation regime that comes out of this next presidency in the United States.
Yeah. And I guess the last big thing to note here is that there were 6 defendants in this case. They were all devs related to Tornado Cash, from my understanding, but they were actually being backed by Coinbase. Coinbase continuing to be a little bit of an actor and a leader in the crypto space in the US, and backing, even though Coinbase itself isn't really like a Web3 company, if you think about it. They're traded on the stock market. You don't own your own keys. You don't own your own crypto, but they continue to back decentralized initiatives and programs. And this was good to see.
How they make their money isn't particularly decentralized.
Yeah. It was good to see that they backed devs that didn't necessarily have the funding to fight the US government.
Sure. Yeah. They have a deep pocket.
For the betterment of crypto as a whole. So that was really good. Really good to see, and we'll see what happens with this privacy technology moving forward. But
just a big win for the space. Definitely got a lot of people excited, I think for good reason. Now looking outside the US, we had a couple of big stories, one out of Russia and one out of Morocco. So Morocco to officially legalize cryptocurrencies, and they banned it back in 2017. So we just see that shift in tide of attitude, very positive. And then out of Russia, President Putin has officially signed a law regulating Bitcoin and crypto as property and exempting transactions from a VAT tax.
It's their sales tax. Just think of that.
But more adoption from a major nation state, just clarifying the regulatory situation.
And this isn't the only nation state news around Bitcoin that's come out this week. A bill was introduced in Brazil's Chamber of Deputies to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Brazil is one of those countries that has really bad inflation. Brazil, Argentina, Colombia to a certain extent, especially, I think those 3 are, if you think about South America, are some of the bigger kind of victims of inflation. And we're now seeing the first strategic reserve bill being proposed down there. We'd already seen a candidate in Poland running on that platform. So we'll see if it passes. We'll be excited to hear more. But we are starting to see that strategic reserve, Bitcoin reserve, being introduced and talked about in more countries. Talking about candidates running on a Bitcoin platform, Suriname presidential candidate vows to make Bitcoin legal tender. Suriname is, if I understand my geography, is a Southeast Asian island nation, and they're currently undergoing their presidential elections, and they're looking at adding Bitcoin as legal tender. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think Trump set a tone, making it a campaign issue. So we're seeing it more and more around the world. As we continue around the world, a lot of news out of Hong Kong and China. Hong Kong to eliminate capital gains tax on Bitcoin and crypto hedge funds and family offices in the bid to become a crypto hub. This was out of the Financial Times. We also had a Hong Kong public company, Boya. They added 515 Bitcoin, I think, to their assets or treasury, but they did sell ETH to do it, but still interesting nonetheless. And then I thought this story was really interesting. Digital asset venture capital firm Sora Ventures launches a $150 million fund to help Asian listed companies adopt Bitcoin treasury strategies similar to MicroStrategy's model. So this is exciting development. And also, I believe Michael Saylor spoke to Microsoft's board, gave him a little presentation. I saw that swirling around Twitter as well.
Yeah, to add to that, MicroStrategy is now not really the only U.S. company that's doing this. Marathon Global is just announced another note, which was about, I think, $760 million, with at least half of it going to acquire Bitcoin. I just saw that on Twitter again this morning. I think just MicroStrategy, I think Marathon Holdings is trying to get in that conversation as well as being a leader in that space.
Yeah, it seems strategically they have high conviction. They're getting to the point of very high conviction.
Yeah, talking about other companies that are showing conviction in Bitcoin, Japanese public company Remix Point announced a 500 million yen purchase worth of Bitcoin, and another Chinese publicly traded company, SOS, plans to purchase up to $50 million worth of Bitcoin. This really had a good impact on their stock, pumping it 100% on the news. I think companies are really starting to follow MicroStrategy's approach and get into the Bitcoin game.
Well,
That's
that's around the world, and around the world also includes Canada. They're in the news this week, bro.
yeah, Canada is joining the ranks. We
I can't
hadn't
believe when I talked to you about this story, you hadn't heard of it. But
Yeah, it hadn't come up on my newsfeed, and I'm
that's
really
surprising.
surprised. It is on the other side of the country from me, but still good to
Still,
see Canada doing something.
from
The
the rest
Vancouver.
of us, it looks like it's next door. You know,
Oh,
we don't want
that's
that.
it. You guys have no clue. But the mayor of Vancouver has put forth a motion to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet of Vancouver City. Vancouver is probably the third largest city in all of Canada. So they're one of the most in
It's a big
demand
city, and
cities.
mayors have a lot of influence on their cities, on the city council. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's very major. Vancouver is pretty tech friendly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot because of their proximity with Seattle that helps influence. There's a lot of Amazon workers that travel across the border, arbitrage a little bit, but that's really good to see. And I'm hoping to see more Canadian stories just like this one. Canadian wellness firm Jiva Technologies to invest 1 million in Bitcoin for reserve strategic treasury reserve. So we're seeing more Canadian stories. I really, as a Canadian, I hope I continue to see stories. I would
They
love.
weren't really considered a particularly Bitcoin-friendly country, quite honestly. Like that's not their reputation. So,
It's
just like in Morocco, tides are turning.
Oh, I think it's interesting because at a political level, people don't think it's super friendly, at least just because of the stories around the protests several years ago. But
Oh,
from an adoption perspective, Canada's definitely more like a pretty strong adopter of crypto, just at an individual level, not
right. The
necessarily
people
at a
want it, but the government's like,
government
mm,
hasn't touched it. Essentially, government doesn't hasn't really talked about it, and we've got a federal election coming up in just about a year from now, and
and Trudeau is left-leaning. What's been happening in the United States? How long has he been in power? Like,
10 years.
yes, they may be ready. There seems to be a wave push to the right, which is generally pro crypto. So I wouldn't be surprised if that. I would be surprised if
None
it didn't continue.
none of the candidates have talked about it yet. Everyone's already positioning themselves for the election, and no one's talked about crypto yet. And so I'm really interested to see whether or not it becomes a ballot issue. We've had a lot of provincial elections lately, and it hasn't been an issue that's talked about yet. And so I'm looking forward to seeing whether it becomes an issue in Canada sooner rather than later, potentially on this next election. The last little story on
There's a
this.
couple. The Rumble
Oh,
too.
that's right. That's right. There's two. French department store Printemps is going to be accepting
Wow.
Bitcoin and crypto payments. That's just an everyday use case of crypto, and it's not a huge story, but it's still a move towards crypto adoption.
Well, the one that's a little bigger is Rumble. So Rumble's a YouTube, a more open, free speech place to YouTube. It's gotten a lot of notoriety, especially lately with a lot of cancel culture going on in the West. So Rumble's been a safe haven. But Rumble has announced a Bitcoin allocation strategy that will include purchases at the discretion of the company up to $20 million. So that's pretty exciting news as well.
Yeah, that's pretty big news for Bitcoin adoption. Game theory is in full effect right now, really full effect. That being said, looking at game theory from a macro perspective, we talked about PCE last week and it was up despite being at market expectations. So it's a bit of a threat to the rate cut cycle. As much as the market was anticipating this result, it isn't a downward result, which is not great towards potentially seeing a rate cut. Right now, there's a slight leaning still towards a rate cut at this next meeting in December, just about 2 weeks away. 67% leaning towards a cut and 32% to no change. So definitely some momentum shifting towards a potential no change, but still a majority of people favoring a cut. Looking at other things, unemployment's coming out on the 6th, and then CPI and inflation data is coming out Wednesday and Thursday of next week. Those are probably our last two data points before this next Fed Reserve decision.
Right on. Yeah, we constantly keep in touch with the rate cutting cycles. It's just a main catalyst of this predicted bull run. I think the other thing people are looking for is an end to quantitative tightening and to enter quantitative easing. Those are the two things kind of constantly on the prowl for, like how aggressive, how low our rate's going to come, whereas the terminal rate on the other side here, and when quantitative easing. All right, let's get into the speed run. The big news trending this week was XRP and AI agents. I saw a lot on my feed, and it just made me wonder, what are these things? I remember talking about AI agents a long time ago, just being interested in this idea that if you are an AI agent, what would you want to use? You're probably going to have to use crypto. So it just seemed like a bull case for crypto in general, but it's hard to imagine what the use cases would be. I was imagining like an autonomous car picking up somebody and they have to go pay for gas, so why wouldn't they just use crypto, something like that? But it's not available yet, right? None of that stuff. So just trying to imagine it. But now there's all this talk about AI agents. There's a protocol on Base, virtuals.io, that is probably one of the bigger ones, and it's interesting because it has it all. They have their own token, so that is to get you exposure to infrastructure. There's a lot of infrastructure type of tokens for AI agents, but they also have AI agents that you can apparently invest in. I have not done it, so I'm just trying to learn about it. But anyway, and there's a bunch of individual agents. Reminds me of NFTs a little bit, or almost like poly markets, like you're picking a bet or you're picking a thing. But it's okay, so what are they doing? I found this article, it talks about it a little bit. It allows developers to build AI agents with 6 different core functionalities: posting to X, so I can imagine a revenue stream there if it becomes successful, Telegram chatting, live streaming, meme generation, quote unquote sentient AI, I'm not 100% sure what that is, and music creation. So it's like placing bets on these different AI agents.
There was a fun story. I'm gonna hop in here. There was there's a fun story where someone created an AI agent whose whole entire goal was to just hold this $50,000.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And not give that $50,000 away. And someone actually managed to convince the AI agent to give them the $50,000. So,
but it was like a whole scheme. They're like, we want you to try and trick this AI agent.
Yeah, like the person that gave the agent the $50,000 was anticipating people trying to mess with the AI agent and get the $50,000, but it was still funny to see that.
But I guess the interesting thing about it is each attempt that went into it, the price went up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a cool just online game. I would have 0 chance. It's not something I would play, but fascinating. Yeah, fascinating story.
Yeah, and then the other big story that everyone's been talking about is XRP. XRP is standing out from the rest, but it is a Dino coin wave. Algo and HBAR have also been, amongst others, have also been performing pretty well, but XRP has definitely led the pack. This started with rumors that the New York Department of Financial Services will soon approve Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin in December. This is based on a report from Fox Business that it may launch December 4th. So keep your eyes on that. The reason why it's New York seems to have the laws in place for stablecoins. PayPal's stablecoins approved there, as are others. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Ripple. They have been taking off right near their all-time high, around $2.68 or something like that.
You know what happens to one of these larger market cap coins that gets a lot of attention all of a sudden? Meme coins happen. So on the same week where Pump Fund weekly revenue dropped 66% after the whole live stream controversy that we talked about, there is now a new kind of like a burgeoning market on XRP. So you can go to a trading bot, just like Pat has on Polygon. They're going to need to start allowing Ledger. Yeah, they need to work on that apparently. But anyway, it tends to move around, right? Like the meme coin market or the new chain meme coin market. Went Polygon, by the way. But anyway, so now there's a bunch of action over there. So they have a Telegram bot, First Ledger. You can post a link, but do your own research. I have not bought any of this stuff. But it's possible, and it's going on right now.
That's it. Everyone gets short attention, and I'm going to throw a little opinion here, but my findings have been that early retail are potentially returning. We've started seeing that lately in some of the Discord groups that both Piter and I are on. We're seeing some old friends from last bull market peeking their head out after a year or two, coming and saying hi. Also having some family and friends asking about crypto again. And I think that's just showing if that early retail was familiar with XRP and then there was some good news around it, People are flocking potentially back to some of their old favorites, and that
Yeah, I
could
mean,
be
AVAX has done well. Polygon has done well. What else? There's a lot of
HBAR,
Algorand.
Algorand. I think
Yeah,
Tezos is even doing fairly well.
Bezos. It seems like Binance not as much, but they were doing well earlier.
Binance
Solana
is
also,
also
which did
harder
well.
to access in the US. It's like next to impossible now.
But Solana too, like it did well earlier, but it's not like it's doing bad or anything right now. But it's not like
It's
pumping as hard as some of these other coins that have been like, where are you know what I mean? Where have you been? Link has had a pretty good day today, and they've been doing pretty well. Although they pumped a little bit very early on.
Yeah, Link is like a weird mid. They had an early pump. They calmed down for a while, and then they're getting some more attention again.
Yeah.
Solana's kind of experiencing a bit of a pullback. They essentially had, if you think about it, XRP's type price action where they skyrocketed. They just tapped their all-time high or got pretty close to it, and then they've been on a pullback for the last week or so.
It's not financial advice, but remember that when you're feeling FOMO, it's probably once
Tapping
you
all-time
see what I mean, where
highs.
it's like the coins I buy, they go down. The coins I thought about buying,
Yeah,
they
go
up.
up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, coins I sell, yeah, they
Yeah.
go up. Coins you think about buying, they stay flat. Coins that you sell, they go up. Coins that you buy, they go down. I love that meme because it feels like that sometimes. And part of it is because of this. It's like you start chasing.
You start chasing other people's pumps, and
Yeah, but you can like let's look for something that hasn't done it. One of the things I think is good to look at is whatever your coin is versus BTC, and get out of the USD mindset a little bit to help get an idea of where there is still opportunity.
yeah, looking at some kind of other stories for the rest of this week, Justin Sun is apparently the largest investor in Donald Trump's World Liberty Finance at $30 million.
Paying for access?
Maybe wouldn't put it past him. He also bought and ate a $6 million banana, so he's obviously got money to burn.
Where is the meme coin on this? I am disappointed. I'm disappointed right now.
It probably is already pumped and gone. That's the reality of it. Bitwise files a filing for 10 crypto index ETF, which would be Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, XRP, Cardano, Avalanche, Chainlink, Bitcoin Cash. I didn't know people talked about Bitcoin Cash, Uniswap, and Polkadot.
Yeah, if you would have told me this 2 months ago, I was like, God, that looks like such a boring list. All these have done well. XRP, Cardano, Avalanche, Chainlink, Polkadot. I'm not sure about Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about Bitcoin Cash and Polkadot, but the most of that list plus Uniswap makes a lot of sense to me. Even though I don't really understand XRP. XRP is never something I've got, but worth mentioning. And then just some potential market making or moving news this week. Sol with some big announcements on December 5th, potentially related to some airdrops. We'll see. There's a huge unlock on Jito on December 7th. $510 million worth of Jito, about 103% of its circulating supply is going to be unlocked. So watch out for that. And then Athena is going to be releasing USDTB, which is a new stablecoin backed by BlackRock's Buildle Fund. That's going to be live next week. So worth watching.
Then we also, just to round this out, we'll get a couple little Elon Musk news. Elon and Vivek will present key proposals for Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. Could affect the price. You know how that goes. They seem like guys that can make a splash. And in our not crypto news section, but related to Elon here, Elon Musk plans to launch an AI game studio to make games great again. Of course, that slogan. XAI, which is fun imagining them building some blockchain games. What do you think the coin will be if they build any blockchain games?
Oh, who knows? Doge.
And before we close today, don't you think it's interesting that we're talking about coins that we call them dinosaurs that were created like practically 2020?
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely interesting.
Those are the dinosaur coins in this space. You are still early. But thanks very much for joining us.
Wait 1 second. You're disrespecting our Polygon memes. Like, how can you? But
we get lashings for that.
Yeah. You don't want me to go tell everybody. But
no. You're going to talk about spice, so I'll listen.
Yeah. So there's some interesting stuff going on. Your friend Andy, the YouTuber, posted himself in a Goon hat. So that's maybe Goon merch. Definitely worth
Well,
watching.
it shows what's good about Goon. They have a couple of cool influencers, my friend Andy and Eckel, and this kind of content just comes out, you know. So you have the community always working, and then you have stuff like this to work around. It's nice. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Jesse Eckel, Tryon, and Gator, as well as Goon, are all going to be present at Art Basel in Miami this coming weekend, representing Polygon in collaboration with Magic Eden. This is coming this weekend, Friday, December 6th
Is
through
this an
the Sunday.
NFT conference or?
It's a crypto, NFT, everything. It
I
kind of
hear I
does.
see Art Basel. I'm imagining more on art.
It's 45,000 people usually attend this event. There, you might even get a chance to see the Gator walking around. Worth
Boy,
checking out. Looking
that's
at
no
kind of
problem.
performance this week, Gator has been a top performer at about bouncing up to $180,000 in market cap over the last couple of days. Spice has had a nice bounce back from about a 20, ranging around 20K. They're now around 30.
Their after launch lows.
Yeah. Trine and Pat are definitely holding well. Goon had a really nice little run early last week and then has had a bit of a pullback, but it's holding well. Looks like the Polygon meme space is doing well. Just remember, this is not financial advice, and please do your own research. But we thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. This is all for educational purposes, but thank you for watching.
Thanks, everybody.